So yesterday I was out in the park. Man couldn't turn his wrist, and a few minutes later, he had full mobility back in his wrist. It takes down pain, works on many different levels. And we keep discovering different applications of the work. And this is one of the things that really excites me, is we don't know all the value and benefit of this because we keep discovering more all the time. We have found that this works on plants, works on animals, infants, people under general anesthesia. It helps children get born. It helps people die. It takes down pain. It brings down inflammation, and so much more. We're even finding out that it helps athletes. So let's talk about a few of those. A woman was working at a hospice center, and she told me that Quantum Touch worked to bring down pain when morphine wouldn't work. We had a number of nurses tell me about pain-free childbirth or nearly pain-free childbirth of having the baby rotate before the proper position when the baby's being born. Now consider, when a woman is carrying a baby, if the hips are turned in, there may not be room in the birth canal for baby's head, and it's very painful and time-consuming, and it's challenging. You run the energy and the hips move very gracefully and easily, there's lots of room. We've had so many different kinds of people talking about different things. There was one woman who was working on a tree every day. She had this office complex where she worked, and there was a beautiful tree she liked to have lunch under. And every day, she sat under the tree, and then she'd spend a couple minutes running energy into the tree. Now, I never tried that myself. I'm not one of those people who hang on to trees very often, but she did this. When spring came, all the trees in that office park blossomed, but that one tree blossomed so extraordinarily that people formed a huge circle around the tree because they'd never seen a tree with that many blossoms. Actually, a couple limbs couldn't even support the weight of the blossoms. You hear about trees not supporting the weight of the fruit. This tree couldn't even support the weight of all the blossoms that it had. When we've tested this with fluids, I noticed kind of early, I was visiting a friend and she had wine that was a little bit on the old side, and I ran energy into it and it made it mellow. So we took this into the classes and had people experimenting running energy into wine. I would go buy a bottle of really nice wine. You know, the kind you get a whole gallon for about $8? The wine is so good, you don't even need a cork to hold the goodness in it. It has a screw top. And to make sure that it was really good, I'd open it the night before and let it breathe. So bring it into class and have people pour, like just little tiny glasses about this high, and they put one under their chair and have one that they're running energy into. I didn't tell them what I'd done. This is like a white wine, really. The white is easier to taste the difference. Nice dry white wine. We'd run energy into that wine, and what would happen was they'd taste it and expecting a nice, and they'd taste it and they'd say, well, it's kind of mellow, it's flat, it's boring. I'd have them call out words, what it would taste like. And they'd say, okay, now taste the one under your chair. Now, consciously and unconsciously, they're expecting it to taste the same. But they didn't realize it was slightly stale. And they tasted the other one, they'd wince and go, oh, ah. They couldn't believe how sharply different it was than the one they had just tasted. So we're changing. The reason I teach people this is not to be able to serve stale wine to their friends and get away with it. The reason I'm teaching this is because we're changing the very physics and chemistry of matter with consciousness. All the fluid in your body changes as a result of the energy. The intelligence of the system, the biological and spiritual intelligence, is doing that healing. We see it working with infants, helping children get out of incubators faster. We see it working on injuries and you name it, just helping people heal faster. There was a nurse, anesthesiologist, who was using Quantum Touch on her patients, and she had a long list of amazing stories from the OR, as she put it. One thing she tested for a while was when a person's blood oxygen level, it's known as the blood gas level, starts dipping down during surgery, that can be very, very dangerous for the patient, because if it goes south of 92%, that means the person could die. So what she would do is when the blood oxygen was diving, she'd walk over to the patient, run energy into the patient, and the blood oxygen would come right back up, 97, 98% in most cases. And she tested them longer and found out that it tended to stay at that higher level after she was done. Then one day in the operating room, she was working with a physician who was trying to put a femur back into position. And he couldn't physically get it. And after about 40 minutes of really hard work trying to get the femur back in place, he took a break. And while he was on break, she walked over, put her hands on the patient lightly, and the femur just rolled right back into position because the energy just brought it right back. Everybody was like totally astounded by that. It was quite amazing. She also tested people who had post-operative nausea and vomiting. Post-operative nausea and vomiting is what unfortunately happens when people come out of surgery and the anesthetic makes them feel sick. She found out that when people started feeling that way and she ran energy into them, they no longer felt that way. One of our practitioners and instructors came up with a phrase that we don't know the limits of this work. And frankly, that's true. Another story I heard from the OR from that particular instructor was that the surgeon accidentally severed a nerve that went to the bicep during surgery. Everybody saw it on the monitor and they gasped because they all recognized what had happened. The doctor was trembling and shaking. She ran over to the patient, ran energy into the patient, then she went over to the doctor and ran energy into him so that he was stable enough to finish the surgery. The next day she checked the patient and he had full mobility of the arm when logic would have said that he would have been paralyzed. The possibilities of using this work are so extraordinary, and my dream is to see this really researched and utilized. This life force energy is so mysterious, and yet it's been around for thousands of years. The first time I met a person who could see the energy clearly was a very famous person named Rosalind Briere. She was teaching a workshop that I attended. I was taking all these notes until I realized that the notes weren't working for me. She said, well, that woman over there has water on the knee, and I just walk over and I squeeze the little orange balls till they turn blue. And I said, well, what do you do if you can't see the little orange balls? She said, well, you have to see them. And I said, well, how do you learn to see them? And she said, well, I don't know how to teach you that. So I was a little frustrated until she told us one little piece of information that I found very valuable. She said, whenever you put your awareness in any of the chakras, the color coming out your hands is the color of that chakra. So I thought, well, that's interesting. And I started spinning my chakras one by one and said, what color is this? Yellow. What color is this? Blue. What color is this? Green. One by one, as fast as I could do it, she could see exactly what I was doing. Well, remember that little boy with the fetal alcohol syndrome? When his mom tried that test on him, he could see all the colors too. We're at a stage in our development where we're ready now to move to a place where we're recognizing that the life force energy is actually real. It's something that we can rely on. It's something that we can get our health and our emotional bodies up to speed and become much healthier.